The church doors creak as I push them open, and there she is, my sister Camila, walking down the aisle in my wedding dress. My hands start trembling as I watch her silk train trail behind her, the same train I spent months perfecting. The lace sleeves I designed, the pearl buttons I hand-sewed during lonely nights, the cathedral veil that belonged to our grandmother. All of it. On her. Ryan stands at the altar in his black tuxedo, the same smile on his face that he gave me when he proposed. That crooked grin that used to make my heart race. Now it makes me sick. The string quartet plays our song, mine and Ryan's song, as she glides past guests who should have been celebrating me. Aunt Maria dabs her eyes with tissues. Cousin Luis adjusts his tie nervously. They all know what happened, but they're here anyway, watching my sister marry my fiancé in my place. My breath catches in my throat as Camila reaches the altar. She turns slightly, and for one terrible second, our eyes meet through her veil, my veil. She doesn't look guilty. She looks radiant. That's when the rage hits me like a physical blow. Not the screaming, throwing kind of rage. The cold, calculating kind that settles in your bones and changes you forever. I slide into the back pew as quietly as I entered, my black dress a stark contrast to all the pastels and spring colors around me. Nobody notices me. I'm invisible, forgotten, erased from my own story. But as I watch Ryan take her hands, hands that used to hold mine, hands that used to promise me forever, I smile. Because what they don't know is that I have something that will destroy their perfect fairy tale. And I'm about to use it. 6 months before that nightmare day, I was living in what felt like a fairy tale. I'd wake up every morning in Ryan's downtown apartment, sunlight streaming through those massive windows he was so proud of. He'd already be up, making coffee in that expensive machine his mother bought us for our engagement. The smell of French roast would drift into the bedroom, mixing with his cologne, that woody scent that clung to his dress shirts. "Morning, beautiful," he'd say, kissing my forehead as I stumbled to the kitchen in his oversized Columbia sweatshirt. Those moments felt so perfect, so normal. Like we were already married, already building the life I'd dreamed about since I was a little girl playing house with my dolls. Ryan Blackwood was everything I thought I wanted. 6'2", dark hair always perfectly styled, the kind of confidence that came from growing up with money. He worked at his father's investment firm downtown, wore $1,000 suits, and talked about our future with the same certainty he used to discuss stock portfolios. When he proposed on Christmas Eve in front of my entire family, I cried so hard I couldn't speak. The ring was everything I'd secretly pinned to my wedding board, vintage emerald cut, platinum setting, completely classic. My mother burst into tears. My father actually smiled, which never happened. Even Camila hugged me tight that night, whispering, "You deserve this, Isabella. You've waited so long for someone to see how amazing you are." My sister had always been the pretty one, the social one, the one who never lacked for attention from boys. I was the responsible older sister, the one who worked 2 jobs through college, who sent money home when dad got laid off, who never asked for anything for myself. But Ryan chose me. Ryan saw something in quiet, careful Isabella Martinez that made him want forever. I threw myself into wedding planning with an obsession that probably worried my friends. I had spreadsheets for everything: flowers, vendors, guest lists, timelines. I'd saved every penny for 3 years, working overtime at the accounting firm, skipping girls' nights and vacations. This wedding was going to be perfect because it had to be. I wasn't getting a second chance at this kind of love. Camila seemed genuinely excited to help. She'd come over after work, sprawled on my couch with wedding magazines, pointing out dresses and centerpieces. "What about this one, ISA? Oh, this would look stunning on you." She even offered to be my maid of honor when my college roommate moved to Seattle. "Are you sure?" I asked, touched but surprised. We'd never been that close growing up. She was 3 years younger, and we'd always seemed to want different things. "Of course. We're sisters. This is the most important day of your life, I want to be part of it." Those planning sessions became some of my favorite memories. Camila and I, finally bonding over something, finally feeling like real sisters instead of strangers who shared DNA. She'd sleep over sometimes, and we'd stay up late talking about everything, her job at the marketing agency, my dreams of maybe starting my own firm someday, whether Ryan and I would have kids right away. He adores you, you know, she told me one night, painting my nails a soft pink. The way he looks at you when you're not paying attention, it's like you hung the moon. I felt so lucky. So grateful. So completely, blissfully unaware that the person I was learning to trust was already planning to take everything away from me. The wedding was set for June 15th. Garden ceremony, reception under string lights, dancing until midnight. Ryan had surprised me by booking the same venue where his parents got married 30 years ago. A beautiful estate with rose gardens and a gazebo that looked like something from a romance novel. "I want our story to start where true love began in my family," he'd said, spinning me around in the empty ballroom during our venue tour. I believed him. I believed all of it. I believed that after 28 years of being careful, of being practical, of putting everyone else's needs first, it was finally my turn to be the bride, the princess, the one who got the happily ever after. God, I was so naive. The first crack in my perfect world happened on a Tuesday afternoon at Bella's bridal boutique. I was standing on the fitting platform in my wedding dress, the dress I'd dreamed about for months. Ivory silk with delicate lace sleeves, a train that pulled perfectly around my feet. The seamstress was pinning the hemline while I stared at myself in the three-way mirror, hardly believing this was really happening. Camila sat in the velvet chair behind me, scrolling through her phone instead of watching my fitting. I didn't mind, she'd already seen the dress a dozen times, helped me choose it even. Then her phone buzzed. A text message. I watched her face change in the mirror's reflection. Her eyes lit up with this secret smile, the kind you get when someone you really like messages you. She bit her lower lip, a habit she'd had since we were kids whenever she was trying not to grin. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen, typing back immediately. Not the casual, slow response you give a friend or coworker. This was eager. Excited. "Who's that?" I asked, still watching her in the mirror. She startled, quickly flipping the phone face down on her lap. "What?" "Oh, nobody. Just work stuff." But I'd seen the name on the screen before she flipped it over. Ryan. My stomach did a small, uncomfortable flip. "Ryan's texting you?" "Yeah, he wanted to surprise you with something for the wedding. I'm helping him plan it." She tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear, not meeting my eyes in the mirror. You know how hopeless men are with romantic gestures. The seamstress finished pinning and stepped back. "Beautiful," she murmured. "You look like a princess." I should have felt beautiful. I should have been glowing with happiness, thinking about my sweet fiancé planning a surprise with my sister's help. Instead, something cold settled in my chest. The way Camila had smiled at that text, I'd never seen her smile like that about work stuff. And the speed of her response, like she couldn't wait to write back. But Ryan and I told each other everything. Why would he need Camila's help with a surprise? Why wouldn't he ask my best friend, or his sister, or literally anyone else? "What kind of surprise?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "I can't tell you that." Camila laughed, but it sounded forced. "It wouldn't be a surprise then." She was lying. I could feel it in my bones, the same way I used to know when she'd stolen from my jewelry box as teenagers. But I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. Because the alternative, that something was happening between my sister and my fiancé, was too terrible to even consider. 2 weeks before the wedding, I left work early with the worst food poisoning of my life. My stomach was cramping so badly I could barely drive. All I wanted was to curl up next to Ryan and let him take care of me the way he always did when I was sick, bringing me ginger ale and rubbing my back until I fell asleep. I used my key to his apartment, calling out weakly as I stumbled through the door. "Ryan? I'm home early. I think I have food poisoning." No answer. His car was in the parking lot, so I knew he was here. Maybe he was napping or on a work call. I kicked off my heels and padded toward the bedroom in my stocking feet, already imagining crawling under those expensive Egyptian cotton sheets he was so proud of. "Ryan?" I called again, my hand on the bedroom door handle. That's when I heard it. A sound that made my blood freeze in my veins. A woman's laugh. Soft, breathless, intimate. Coming from behind the door. My hand trembled on the handle. This couldn't be happening. Not Ryan. Not my Ryan, who told me every day how much he loved me, who'd spent months planning our perfect future together. Maybe it was the TV. Maybe he was watching a movie. But then I heard his voice, low and husky in a way I recognized. "God, you're incredible." And then, like a knife straight through my heart, "I love you so much more than her." The world tilted sideways. My vision blurred. I couldn't breathe. I pushed open the door. There they were, tangled in the sheets I'd helped him pick out at Pottery Barn. Ryan's dark hair was messy, his face flushed. And underneath him, her legs wrapped around his waist, was my sister. Camila. My maid of honor. My wedding planner. My sister, wearing nothing but my grandmother's necklace, the one I'd lent her for a date last week. Time stopped. Everything stopped. Camila saw me first. Her face went white as paper, then bright red. "Isabella, oh my God, I can explain." But Ryan? Ryan didn't even look sorry. He just looked annoyed. Like I was interrupting something important. "Jesus, Isabella," he said, not even bothering to cover himself. "Don't you knock?" That's when I knew. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This wasn't even the first time. This was my life exploding into a million pieces. "How long?" My voice came out as a whisper. Camila was scrambling for her clothes, tears streaming down her face. "Isa, please, let me explain." "How long?" I screamed, and they both flinched. Ryan sat up, running his hands through his hair like this was just an inconvenience. "Look, this is complicated." 3 months, Camila sobbed. "It's been 3 months. 3 months. While I was tasting wedding cakes and addressing invitations. While I was working overtime to pay for our dream wedding. While I was planning the rest of my life with a man who was sleeping with my sister in the bed where I spent every weekend. My chest felt like it was caving in. My legs gave out, and I grabbed the doorframe to keep from falling. "We didn't mean for it to happen," Camila was saying, pulling on her shirt, my shirt, the one I'd let her borrow. We fell in love. Love. They fell in love. While planning my wedding. While I trusted them both with my whole heart. I looked at Ryan, waiting for him to say something, anything that would make this make sense. Instead, he shrugged. "I'm sorry you found out like this. Not sorry he did it. Sorry I found out." That's when something inside me shattered completely. Not my heart, that was already broken. My trust. My faith in people. My belief that I mattered to anyone. I turned around and walked out of that bedroom, out of that apartment, out of the life I thought was mine. Behind me, I could hear Camila sobbing, begging me to come back, to let her explain. But there was nothing left to explain. They had chosen each other. And they had chosen to destroy me. I drove home in complete silence. No music. No crying. No screaming. Just the sound of my Honda's engine and the rhythmic thump of my heart breaking with every beat. My apartment felt like a museum of my own stupidity. Wedding planning materials covered every surface, fabric swatches pinned to the walls, vendor contracts stacked on the kitchen counter, my dress hanging in the bedroom closet like a ghost of dreams that would never come true. I stood in my living room, still in my work clothes, staring at the vision board I'd made 6 months ago. Pictures of Ryan and me at Christmas, at his company party, at dinner with his parents. The engagement photo we'd taken at the park, where he spun me around like I was the most precious thing in the world. All lies. Every single moment had been a lie. My phone started ringing. Ryan's name lit up the screen. I turned it off. It stayed off for 3 days. I called in sick to work, which wasn't hard since I actually felt like I was dying. Every part of my body ached like I had the flu, but it was worse than that. It was like someone had reached inside my chest and carved out everything that mattered. I didn't shower. I didn't eat. I lived on the couch in Ryan's old Columbia sweatshirt, the one that still smelled like his cologne, watching mindless TV and trying not to think. But thinking was all I could do. How long had they been planning this? Did they laugh about how clueless I was? Did Camila go home after our wedding planning sessions and call Ryan to tell him how pathetic I looked trying on dresses for a wedding that would never happen? The worst part was how obvious it had been. The secret texts. The way she always asked detailed questions about Ryan, his work schedule, his favorite restaurants, his friends' names. I thought she was just being a good sister, trying to get to know my fiancé better. She was gathering intelligence. On day 2, my mother called my landline, the old rotary phone I kept for emergencies. I let it ring. Mija, we haven't heard from you. Call me back. Your father is worried. On day 3, my best friend Sophia showed up at my door with Chinese takeout and refused to leave when I didn't answer. Isabella Martinez, I know you're in there. Open this door or I'm calling the police for a wellness check. I let her in, and the moment I saw her face, concerned, loving, worried, I finally broke. I sobbed until my throat was raw. I told her everything while she held me like a child, stroking my hair and making the same soothing sounds my mother used to make when I had nightmares. What are you going to do about the wedding? Sophia asked gently. Cancel everything, I guess. Lose all the deposits. Tell everyone that the perfect couple isn't so perfect after all. And them? I was quiet for a long time. I don't know. But that was a lie. Because somewhere in the fog of heartbreak and humiliation, something else was growing. Rage. Pure, cold rage. Not the hot, explosive kind that makes you scream and throw things. The quiet kind that settles in your bones and changes your DNA. The kind that makes you very, very dangerous. That night, after Sophia left, I sat in my bathroom staring at myself in the mirror. My eyes were swollen from crying, my hair was a mess, my skin was pale and blotchy. I looked like a victim. But as I stared at my reflection, something shifted. My jaw tightened. My shoulders straightened. I wasn't going to be their victim anymore. They thought they'd broken me. They thought I'd crawl away and quietly disappear from their lives, making room for their perfect love story. They had no idea who they were dealing with. I'd spent my entire life being careful, being nice, being the responsible one who never caused trouble. But they'd just taught me that being good gets you nothing but heartbreak. Time to learn how to be bad. On the 4th day, I got up and took a shower. I washed my hair with expensive shampoo, put on makeup, chose a dress that made me look pulled together. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see a broken woman anymore. I saw someone with work to do. The first step was research. Deep, methodical research. I'd always been good with numbers, it's why I became an accountant. During our 2-year relationship, Ryan often brought work home, spreading financial documents across his kitchen table while I cooked dinner. He trusted me completely, sometimes even asking me to double-check calculations or spot inconsistencies in client portfolios. You have such a sharp eye for details, he'd say, kissing the top of my head. I'm lucky to have you. Those documents were still fresh in my memory. And some of the numbers had never quite added up. I started with what I remembered, Mrs. Henderson's account showing unusual withdrawals right after her husband died. Mr. Thompson's pension fund transferring to an account I didn't recognize. Small discrepancies that Ryan had explained away as processing errors or temporary holds. But I'd worked in accounting long enough to know that legitimate financial firms don't make those kinds of mistakes. Not repeatedly. Not with elderly clients who might not notice right away. I spent 2 days at the public library, using their computers to research Ryan's clients. Obituaries told me when spouses had died. Social media revealed family situations. Public records showed property transfers and account changes. The pattern became crystal clear. Ryan Blackwood wasn't just an investment advisor. He was a predator who targeted vulnerable elderly clients, stealing small amounts over time, amounts that grieving widows or confused seniors might not notice immediately. The beautiful part? I had access to everything I needed to prove it. During our relationship, Ryan had given me the password to his laptop so I could use it when mine was being repaired. He'd never changed it because he trusted me. Sweet, naive Isabella who would never dream of snooping. I knew where he kept his files. I knew his client list. I knew his banking passwords because he'd written them in the notebook he kept in his kitchen drawer, the same notebook where I'd helped him jot down wedding vendor information. While he was busy planning his new life with my sister, I was documenting his crimes. Screenshots of altered account statements. Photos of forged signatures. Records of unauthorized transfers. A complete timeline of theft spanning 2 years. But the evidence was just the beginning of my plan. I called my mother and told her I was canceling the wedding due to irreconcilable differences. I didn't mention the affair. Not yet. Are you sure, Mija? Cold feet are normal before? I'm sure, Mom. Ryan and I, we want different things. Then I did something that surprised everyone, including myself. I told them they could keep the venue. The flowers. The catering. Even my dress, if it fit Camila. Isabella, you can't be serious, my mother gasped. I just want everyone to be happy, I said, forcing tears into my voice. If Ryan has found love with someone else, who am I to stand in the way? They thought I was being noble. Self-sacrificing. The bigger person. They had no idea I was setting the perfect trap. While Ryan and Camila scrambled to plan their hastily arranged wedding using my deposits, my vendors, my everything, I was making different preparations. I contacted every single one of Ryan's elderly clients. Not to expose him. Not yet. Just to introduce myself. To check in. To ask innocent questions about their accounts, their recent statements, whether they'd noticed anything unusual. By the end of the week, I had a list of 12 victims who'd been systematically robbed by my ex-fiancé. And I had their phone numbers. The wedding was in 4 days. Ryan and Camila thought they were getting my fairy tale. They were about to get my nightmare instead. Because the most beautiful revenge isn't destruction. It's justice. Cold, calculated, perfectly timed justice. And I was about to serve it at their own wedding reception. The power shift started with a phone call I never expected to make. Mrs. Henderson? This is Isabella Martinez. I was Ryan Blackwood's fiancé. Silence on the other end. Then a shaky voice, oh, honey. I heard about the wedding being called off. I'm so sorry. Thank you. Actually, that's why I'm calling. I'm trying to tie up some loose ends with Ryan's work files, and I noticed some discrepancies in your account. Have you received your recent statements? Another pause. Well, no, actually. Ryan said there was a delay with the new system. But my monthly checks have been smaller lately. When I asked him about it, he said it was market fluctuations. My heart pounded, but my voice stayed steady. Mrs. Henderson, when did your husband pass away? 6 months ago. That's when Ryan started handling everything for me. He said Harold had set up a special trust. I closed my eyes. Another victim. Another elderly widow who trusted a charming young man to protect her late husband's legacy. By Thursday, I had spoken to 8 of Ryan's clients. The stories were all the same: reduced payouts, missing statements, complicated explanations that made no sense. But I wasn't ready to expose him yet. Not until the perfect moment. That evening, Ryan finally cornered me at the coffee shop where I used to meet him every morning before work. He looked terrible, dark circles under his eyes, his usually perfect hair disheveled. "Isabella, we need to talk." "Do we?" I stirred my latte calmly, not looking up. "About the wedding. About everything." He sat down across from me uninvited. "I know this is complicated, but Camila and we didn't plan this. It just happened. Things like this don't just happen, Ryan. They're choices." He ran his hands through his hair, a nervous habit I used to find endearing. "Look, I know I handled this badly. But you have to understand, what Camila and I have, it's different. It's real. And what we had wasn't. It was comfortable. Safe. But with her." He leaned forward, and for a moment, I saw a flash of the old Ryan. The one who used to tell me I was his whole world. "I'm sorry you got hurt. I really am. But you deserve someone who loves you the way I love her." Something cold settled in my chest. Not heartbreak this time. Something sharper. "You're right," I said quietly. "I do deserve better." He looked relieved. "So you understand? About the wedding?" "I understand perfectly." I met his eyes for the first time. "I hope you and Camila will be very happy together." "We will be." "Thank you, Isabella. For being mature about this." Mature. Like I was a child throwing a tantrum over a broken toy. After he left, I sat in that coffee shop for another hour, watching normal people live their normal lives. Couples sharing pastries. Business people on phone calls. Students typing on laptops. None of them knew that in 3 days, I was going to destroy someone's entire existence. The thought should have scared me. Should have made me question what I was becoming. Instead, it felt like justice. That night, I tried on my real wedding dress, the one I'd never told anyone about. The backup I'd ordered when the first one was delayed, the one that cost twice as much and fit like it was made for me. Standing in my bedroom mirror, I looked like a bride. But I felt like something else entirely. A predator who had learned to hunt. Ryan thought he'd broken me. Camila thought she'd won. They had no idea that the quiet, responsible Isabella they'd betrayed was gone forever. In her place stood someone who understood that sometimes, the only way to get justice is to take it yourself. The wedding was in 2 days. Time to finish what they started. The church was packed. 200 guests who should have been celebrating me were now watching my sister marry my fiancé. I sat in the back pew, wearing a simple black dress, invisible to everyone who mattered. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was dressed for a funeral, and in a way, I was attending one. The funeral of Ryan Blackwood's reputation. Camila looked radiant in my stolen dress, walking down the aisle to my music, carrying my bouquet. Ryan stood at the altar in his black tuxedo, that same crooked smile I used to love plastered across his face. The minister cleared his throat. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Ryan and Camila. If anyone has any reason these two should not be wed, speak now or forever hold your peace." The church fell silent. This was it. My phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Henderson, "Ready when you are, dear." I stood up slowly. "Actually, I do." Every head turned. Gasps echoed through the sanctuary. Ryan's face went white as paper. "Isabella?" The minister looked confused. "I thought you were." I was. But I have information this congregation needs to hear before these two make any vows. I stepped into the aisle, my voice carrying clearly through the silence. You see, I've spent the last 2 weeks getting acquainted with Ryan's elderly clients. Specifically, the ones he's been stealing from. Ryan started to speak, but I held up my hand. Mrs. Henderson, are you there? An elderly woman in the third row raised her hand shakily. I'm here, Isabella. Would you like to tell everyone about your missing pension funds? Her voice wavered but carried. Ryan told me my husband's life insurance payout was being reinvested for better returns. I haven't seen a penny in 6 months. Murmurs rippled through the church. Ryan's father shot to his feet. What is she talking about? Mr. Thompson? I called. Another hand went up. Your turn. 40,000 from my retirement account, the old man said, his voice stronger than Mrs. Henderson's. Gone. Ryan said it was a temporary market adjustment. The murmurs became angry voices. Ryan's clients, 12 of them scattered throughout the church, began standing up one by one. 60,000. My husband's entire pension. The money for my grandson's college fund. Ryan was shaking now. Isabella, stop. You don't understand? Oh, but I do understand. I pulled out my phone, holding up screenshots. I understand forged signatures. I understand unauthorized transfers. I understand exactly how you've been funding your lifestyle while these people ate soup for dinner because their investments mysteriously disappeared. Camila stood frozen at the altar, my dress pooling around her feet like spilled milk. Ryan? What is she talking about? It's not what it sounds like, he stammered. I can explain. Explain this. I held up my phone higher. Bank records showing transfers from client accounts to your personal account. 2 years' worth. Ryan's father was already on his phone, probably calling their lawyers. But it was too late for damage control. And Camila, I turned to my sister, who looked like she was about to faint in my wedding dress. Congratulations. When's the baby due? The church erupted. Our mother screamed. Our father started shouting in Spanish. Wedding guests pulled out their phones, recording every second of the most dramatic ceremony they'd ever witnessed. But I wasn't finished. The police are waiting outside, I said calmly, walking closer to the altar. They have arrest warrants for fraud, elder abuse, and embezzlement. The FBI is seizing your accounts as we speak. Ryan's legs gave out. He collapsed into the minister's chair, his head in his hands. You destroyed my life, I said, my voice soft but carrying through the chaos. So I'm returning the favor. I looked at Camila, tears streaming down her face, my grandmother's pearls around her neck. The dress looks better on me anyway. Then I walked back down the aisle, past the shouting relatives and recording phones, out into the sunlight where Detective Morrison was waiting to arrest my ex-fiancé. Justice had never felt so beautiful. The fallout was swift and merciless. By Monday morning, Ryan's arrest was front-page news in the local paper, investment firm heir arrested at wedding for elder fraud. The photo they used was perfect, him in handcuffs, still wearing his wedding tuxedo, being led away from the church while wedding guests watched in horror. His father's firm immediately suspended him pending investigation. The state attorney general's office froze all his accounts. The trust fund his grandfather had left him, the one that was supposed to fund our dream house, was seized for victim restitution. Within a week, the FBI had uncovered over $300,000 in stolen funds spanning 2 years. 12 elderly victims, their life savings systematically drained by a man they trusted with their futures. Camila was 6 weeks pregnant and suddenly very, very alone. She called me crying that first night after the arrest. Isabella, please. I know you hate me, but I don't have anywhere else to go. Where's Ryan? I asked, genuinely curious. Jail. His bail was set at $500,000. His father won't pay it. Her voice broke. He says Ryan's an embarrassment to the family name. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. What do you want from me, Camila? Forgiveness, I guess. Understanding. I know what we did was wrong, but we fell in love. Real love. You can't control who you fall in love with. I was quiet for a long moment, watching the sunset from my apartment balcony. You're right. You can't control love. But you can control lies. You can control betrayal. You can control whether you destroy someone who trusted you. She sobbed harder. I never meant to hurt you. Yes, you did. You meant to hurt me every time you texted him during my dress fitting. Every time you smiled at your phone when he messaged you. Every time you helped me plan a wedding you knew would never happen. My voice stayed steady, calm. You enjoyed hurting me. Don't pretend otherwise now that you're facing consequences. I hung up and blocked her number. She had to move back in with our parents in shame, working 3 jobs to support herself and prepare for a baby whose father would be in prison for the next 8 to 15 years. Our mother called occasionally to update me, her voice heavy with disappointment. She named the baby Ryan Jr., Mom told me 6 months later. Can you believe that? After everything he put our family through. I could believe it. Camila had always been drawn to drama, even when it destroyed her. The strangest part was how quickly I stopped caring about their suffering. I thought betrayal had broken me into irreparable pieces. I thought I'd spend years rebuilding trust, learning to believe in people again, healing from the trauma of being discarded by the 2 people I'd loved most. Instead, I felt free. Free from a relationship built on lies. Free from a sister who saw me as competition instead of family. Free from the exhausting work of loving people who didn't love me back. My life began changing in small but meaningful ways. I got promoted at work. Turned out I was much more focused and confident when I wasn't spending half my energy managing someone else's needs. I started taking art classes, something I'd always wanted to do but never had time for when I was planning Ryan's perfect life. I bought myself the vintage engagement ring I'd always secretly preferred, not the flashy diamond Ryan had chosen to impress his friends, but a simple sapphire that made me smile every time I looked at it. Not because I was engaged, but because I could buy beautiful things for myself. 3 months after the wedding disaster, I was having coffee at my usual spot when Detective James Morrison walked in. Tall, kind eyes, the sort of steady presence that made you feel safer just being near him. Ms. Martinez? I wanted to thank you personally. The evidence you gathered made our case airtight. Those families are getting their money back because of you. We talked for 2 hours. He asked me out for dinner that weekend. I said yes without hesitation. I thought betrayal had broken me. Instead, it had cleared the path to something infinitely better. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. Sometimes it's simply living well. 3 years later, I'm standing in a different church, wearing a different wedding dress. This one is mine. Really mine. Not stolen, not borrowed, not worn by someone who betrayed me. The lace is hand-sewn French vintage, the pearls are real, and the train pools around my feet like liquid starlight. Detective James Morrison waits for me at the altar, his eyes bright with tears of joy. Real joy. Not the performance Ryan gave Camila while he was stealing from elderly widows. In the second pew, Mrs. Henderson dabs her eyes with a tissue. She got her money back and insisted on attending my wedding. You saved my life, dear. The least I can do is celebrate yours. Camila isn't here. She's working her 3rd job today, trying to support little Ryan Jr. while his father serves year 6 of his sentence. My mother walks me down the aisle. My father passed 2 years ago, but not before he told me how proud he was of the woman I'd become. Mija, he'd said, you turned your pain into justice. That's the mark of true strength. As I reach James, I think about that terrible day when I pushed open the church doors to watch my sister steal my wedding. I thought my life was ending. Instead, it was beginning. The minister asks if anyone objects to our union. Silence. Beautiful, peaceful silence. No betrayals lurking in the shadows. No secrets waiting to destroy everything. Just love, honest and real, and earned through months of building trust with a man who sees me as a partner, not a placeholder. You may kiss the bride, the minister says. James lifts my veil, and I see my future in his eyes. A future I chose, not one that was chosen for me. As our lips meet, I hear Mrs. Henderson whisper to her daughter, "That's what real love looks like." She's right. Real love doesn't require betrayal to exist. It doesn't need to destroy someone else's happiness to flourish. Sometimes the people who hurt us think they're stealing our destiny. They never realize they're just clearing the path to something infinitely better. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's building a life so beautiful that their betrayal becomes the greatest gift they ever gave you.